Today's talk is named Returning to Innocence, and it's a personal journey towards leaving behind the meaning that you have given to your life circumstances that has made you feel stuck or alone or more nervous towards life. And I wrote this talk from a state of wanting to regain innocence because of something that I witnessed last week on a trip to Mexico with my husband. We work very hard during the Easter season, and there's really no downtime. So we still have the office work all day, and then we leave for an hour, and then we're here at rehearsals till 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and it's every day, and it's a lot. And as I get a little bit more mature in my life, it takes a toll on you emotionally, and then you go into work on the next day, and you have to do a counseling session with somebody, and you're your glass is quite empty, giving and giving. And so I said to Mike, I think about 8 days before Easter, I have got to get out of here. I have got to know I'm getting out of here. Got to reprieve and have a break. And so we got tickets to go to Mexico just to lay by the pool or lay, at the ocean and just listen to the ocean for days. But an accident happened that I witnessed, and it ruined the trip completely for me. And when I was in a state of fight or flight after I witnessed what I did, and I will share that later, I asked myself from a deep place within myself, I was in a fight or flight state, and I felt really far from my children. I was in another country, away from my family, and all it did was trigger my cell memory of my pain body, and I just wanted to get home and just protect my children. And I thought to myself, what is it that I am needing in this moment to calm down, because I can't just hop on a plane and go home. And the word innocence, so big, appeared in my consciousness. And so I worked the next few days that I was there with the word innocence and what that meant for me. What is it that I need to return to when it comes to innocence? I've had some weird karmic journey this lifetime where I've witnessed a lot of tragedy, and it's not necessarily personal tragedy. I just happen to be the person that will be there when somebody falls and goes into a grand mal seizure, and there's no one else to deal with it. And I've had to deal with things like that since I was 12 years old, and I've witnessed that over 5 times in my life. I have been there when somebody was hit by a car and held a woman while she died, and we're in the middle of a steamboat where nobody was. I've watched a lot of trauma just happen, and I by myself and have to literally be connected with God and hold a space in the face of trauma, and I don't want to be that person anymore. I realized that on this trip I was going to claim something different for myself, that I don't need to keep learning from the trauma of life where light lives within it. There's something in it that, I've always thought, well, maybe it's just I'm the messenger for God. I'm the one that's supposed to be there to bring reprieve and peace to people's experiences when they're in these tragic moments. But I've done my time now. I've done my time, and I recognized that on this trip, that the innocence is that I want to now unsee these things in my consciousness. I want to undo it. That I no longer want to live from a place where I'm nervous to do things because I don't trust this universe that you can, at the drop of a hat, get killed or hurt because you were adventuring. So I want to move out of this a little bit, and I'll come back to this near the end of the sermon, but I want to be a part of the creative process. I want to be part of the fun of life. I want to reawaken the part of me that was 16 once and had no fear. And I had pretty good discernment because I was raised with parents that raised me to have good discernment in my life, but a wild child. The person that laughed from her guts. You know what I mean? I want to see life through the childlike wonder again and be blown away by what life has in store for me every single day, and expect that not only will it be an amazing day, but it will be filled with miracles. But I know that I have to unsee in my consciousness lots of trauma that has been stored. And, I've done talks on the pain body, and this is kind of along that idea, but I'm just speaking from my experience of, I feel like we live in a world that sells trauma and panic. So when you actually experience something that's tragic, the whole world is just in a wiring of just too much, too much, too much, too much. It's adrenaline rush world. And that innocence that children have, they don't know what's going on in the world. They just live in the moment. They live in every moment that it's a possibility of fun. Everything is fun-based. Everything is laughter-based. Everything is playing on the planet. So before this happened, this year, and I always count the beginning of the year. For me, when you're a parent, the beginning of the year is not January. The beginning of the year is September when your kids go to school. You work in the school year, you know what I mean? So around September, my daughter graduated from college and came home from New York, and she was in the performing arts there. And she's back here working jobs and things like that, trying to find her way back to New York. But I've been attending these classes called NIA for about 2 years in Lyons, and it has so transformed my life. It is my absolute play. It is the place that I have grown so strong physically. I have regained my youth. I have regained my joy, and I have learned so much by being able to move into my joy, to move into my fears, to move into whatever it is that's existing in my life each time I go to that class. And every day we're different. Every day we're greeted with different things. I have a bad morning with the kids before school, and I go to that class. Or I had amazing dreams the night before, and I want to dance into those dreams, But it's this wonderful place to come and play. It's a play shop. It's a place to grow the goodness in your life. So they'll start the class with something like an intention. Like today, we're going to really connect with our root system in our feet. And we're going to feel how we are walking through our life with Mother Earth. How much is our full foot touching the ground and feeling the vibration of Mother Earth's love coming into our bodies? What kind of presence are we bringing to the planet Earth? And how much is she supporting every aspect of our lives? And what are you bringing back to the planet? What are you bringing back? And we're going to dance into that today. And just that, just the presence of thinking of the planet and your feet spread out on it, can change your full perspective, and to be able to dance into that makes you leave the mind chatter that's going on and move in and through your life. My daughter joined me when she came back into town, and she comes to all the classes with me, and I feel so grateful that I get to share this with her, because it took me so many years to find a movement form. They really don't like to call it dance. It's called spiritual Nia, and it's a form of movement that incorporates karate and tai chi and qigong and beautiful music and dance movements. And my daughter has improved so much as a dancer, even though she's been trained in that school and everything like that. I've seen such a difference in the way that her body expands to the absolute fullest. I watch when her arms are up, it's she is touching the sky. And when she crumbles, her whole body is feeling every aspect. Feeling like God, feeling it in her feet, feeling it in the sky. And the balance that she has regained in her body, to watch it come into her system, I know that God is moving in and through her through those dance moves, and I'm seeing a joy and an understanding and a self-love that's awakening in her, and maturity through these classes. So there's sometimes when something will happen in the class and it just triggers something. It just pops something open, and before you know it, all of a sudden it's just tears are flowing down your face as you're listening to the most beautiful music, and you won't necessarily even identify what the tears are. You just are feeling so completely your creative being. Something got unlocked that was trapped and was not moving within you, and you didn't have access because there weren't words. There wasn't something to get it out of you. It needed the movement to break open the heart, to allow you to totally and completely feel where you are. A Course in Miracles concurs, stating with authority that unless you create, you are unfulfilled. The creative process is the process of being connected with that greater something, that limitlessness. That's why it's so great when we work in the creative process. And it's not just dance, it's bicycling, it's playing instruments, it's whatever your thing is, it's painting. It's that thing where you lose time and hours could go by and you have no idea what time it is because you went into that creative process of just the isness of your being, your specialness, the thing that God made you have that is your expression. When we cut ourselves off of that, which a lot of us do because we make work first, we make the finances first, we make the house, the cars, the car payments, the cell phones, all of these things more important than being in the creative every single day, to find that thing that awakens and ignites that fire within us. There's a great book called Shortcuts to God by Gerald Jampolsky, who's a great author and scholar of the Course in Miracles. And this is kind of like a layman's terms book on the Course in Miracles. And he says this: "May the light of God ignite a fire within our hearts. With all my heart, mind, and soul, I open the door for God to ignite the fire of love within me. This fire is aching to be released, full of passion, joy, and the energy of the highest and most holy inspiration, filled with a zest of being fully alive, with love that comes from knowing that I am always in the center of God's heart. With all my heart, mind, and soul, I open the door for God to ignite the fire of love within me." Every day that I'm going into that class, that's what I am doing. I am going to open up to the universe. I want to expect miracles there. And every time I really don't want to go because I feel too tired, those are the best classes I take. Is when I'm really like, I really don't have the energy to give. I have nothing to give here. I'm stopped up somewhere. I'm stored up, so I don't have Spirit's energy moving through me. And just by the merely showing up for myself, that energy is moving through my life. And when I leave there, Mike will say, sometimes, Mike will, we're married, and in the morning I can be grouchy sometimes. And he'll say to me, "I think you need to go to dance class," which is fighting words, and you don't ever say it again. No, those are great words. A little reminder, you need to go to dance class. You're a little pent up, and it does really make a huge difference. But one of my favorite points in the class is when we circle up near the end, and the teachers will talk about how we are all in this together, that we are all advocates for one another, that nobody's here to be in competition with the other. We are here to be with one another completely and totally, that we're in sisterhood and brotherhood, and we're here to heal one another and to take each other in. And all of us look at each other after we've danced so hard and we're so raw. And there's usually tears at that moment. That's a moment where people will just break down because some people haven't felt seen in a really long time. To be seen in your creative soul is one of the most powerful experiences you will ever have. And if you haven't had that in a long time, I would really like to invite you to come today and try this out. But there's also other times around Christmas, they'll have you become like a little child and connect with the little kid in you. And the teacher said that day, she said, today we're going to pretend that we're walking down the stairs and we're discovering our presents for the first time. So remember yourself as a little child, and we're all like this, and oh my God, the presents, and it's this whole thing. And I look at my daughter, Renia, who's 22, she's like, "You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be, this is too much. This is just way too cute and too cutesy, whatever." But all that did was just make me really work the little baby. I'm crawling around and being ridiculous and embarrassing the living crap out of her. And I had such a good time showing her that it's okay to be funny. It's okay to be silly. Why do we take ourselves so seriously? Why can't we act like whatever we want to? My favorite people on the planet are people that have an ugly laugh and they go for it. You know what I mean? I love that. I love when people get overly excited for things that aren't even exciting. You know what I mean? There's just people that just have that effervescence and they overly get stoked. I live for that. I love happiness and I love life pumping through the veins. So I wanted to share this quote from the prophet. Your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. Your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. And I've used that quote many times, and I think that I've carved out enough of the sorrow. I've let Spirit know that. I have carved out enough of the sorrow to recognize that I am joy. I want joy. I want my glass to live in joy. I have found the caverns of darkness and pain so many times I can't speak to it. I have been a great minister because of the pain that I have witnessed. But I am at a point in my life, at an age in my life, that I don't want to grow older. I want to grow more in love with this life, right? I want to grow into that joy, and I want to be joy, and I want to learn more joy from joy instead of learning more joy from darkness. And I think we're all ready to do that. Are we not? Yes, we have to claim that for ourselves, though. When we live from the little mind that is not from the expanded ego mind that oversees life, from a grand understanding that in everything that's happening in our life, there's a great purpose for our growth, for our beings. And the growth doesn't have to be hard. The growth can be joy. The growth can be happiness. The growth can be the vibration that you're bringing to situations, that you actually meet vibrations that are meeting your beautiful joy. If we all could live in that light, what kind of honorable universe would we be living within then? What can we magically create from that ego view of my creative process? I'm going to bring it. I'm going to walk on this land very carefully. I'm going to be loving. I'm going to be honorable. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to follow this compass that I know is truth. And I'm going to feel good. And so therefore, I'm going to feel God. In Matthew 18:2-4, it says it this way. He called a little child to him and placed the child among them, and he said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven." Let's listen to that. Let's think about what that's saying. Therefore, whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. So wouldn't that be saying that we need to unsee the trauma? We need to unsee the things that have broken us and unsee the things that have started to make us fly much lower than we used to, where we used to fly up here because we trusted this universe. We trusted this process. And we learned enough from those traumas to understand that there were things we needed to learn. But isn't it time now to be like little children in awe of what is next? What is coming? What is the miracle that's next? I can't wait to see the good that's going to come from the situation. Looking through a glass that is half full instead of half empty. And meditating into that joy, meditating into that magic, walking in nature and speaking to that truth. I am joyful and I am healed, and I'm going to speak to the full glass of God that I have within me. I'm going to no longer speak to the limitations of the things that are keeping me living small and get in control of my words and my thoughts and my feelings that are preceding me and making my life either be fabulous and amazing or terrible and hard. Shortcuts to God says it this way again. Let me be free forever of the fear that causes me to shrink from love, turning my heart to stone and erecting a picket fence around it. I know that I can find freedom simply by accepting my role as your messenger of light, love, peace, and joy. Let me be free. Let's say that together. Let me be free. When we bring that into our beings, what does that feel like when you think that? Let me be free. Let me feel God. Let me feel happiness. Let me feel divinely guided. You know, in my life, I did learn a lot from darkness. And that was how the polarity worked. It was darkness, and then I found the contrast of light. That was how it always worked for me. And I had to keep learning it over and over through divorce, loss of child, people's traumas, their counseling sessions that would leave with me. And it's just the hard things that I've witnessed. It was darkness, but I would find the light on the other side. But there was always both going on. And there is the yin and yang to life. But the thing is we don't have to sit in the darkness long. It's just a matter of choice to not keep reinventing, affirming, and being with the darkness. It's like I see the darkness, because to be really awakened is to be able to be in your darkness, but not be of your darkness. You don't identify as the darkness. Your life has all of it, the ripples of life. But when we identify as the darkness, then we fall victim of the darkness. We don't fall victim of our power. I've spent a lot of my life being the counselor. You know, I'm a Libra, which tends to be a very natural counselor sign. And then the work that I do obviously calls a lot of that. But when I was in my dark times, I very rarely had somebody that I could talk to, that could lift me back up into mirroring the power that was within me. I've had to live solo in that place. I've had to do it in meditation. And I want to surround myself with the people that are healed now. It's my turn. I want to be around healed people. I want to hear their amazing Phoenix stories and how they've overcome the hardships and now are light, are the joy that I live in. Be around the light bringers, the magic makers, the world shifters, the game shakers. They challenge, uplift, and change you. They don't let you play small in your life. These heartbeats are your family. These heartbeats are your tribe. That's what my group is in Lions for me. I know when one of them is not missing. I don't know all of their names, but I know their vibration. I know who I'm with, and I miss them when they're not there. And I know when we're all there. There's this wonderful community of sisterhood and brotherhood that is an unspoken understanding. It's not about names or who's married or who has kids or who doesn't have kids or who is rich and who is poor. We're just really raw and really awake for an hour 3 times a week. And it's an amazing feeling to have that place to go. It's my food, it's my life, it's my breath. I don't want to surround myself with only challenged people anymore. I want to surround myself with the people that recognize that they're children of God. That within them is a power to overcome any disarray, any hardship, any problem. And that are warriors to overcoming instead of falling behind and speaking to the problems. In Genesis 1:27, it says, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. God made us in his image. We are crafted in the image of the ultimate creator. And if there was any question as to if God wanted you to know you were a creation, the word create is used 3 times in this verse. Since we are made in the image of God, we get all the gifts that live in that image. Love, patience, grace, kindness, and of course, of all of them, creativity. We can embrace the fact you have been crafted in his image today and accept his permission for you to be the artist he made you to be. Does everybody have a creative outlet in their life right now? That's not impressive. So I guess we have a little work to do here, don't we? We need more play shops, not just Nia. We need to get some Qigong in here. We need to get some ecstatic dance classes in here. We got all sorts of experiences we're bringing here, right? So if you have some ideas for it, let's do it. We're going to do this because we got to bring some more creativity. We need a bicycling group if you're a bicyclist. We do have a running group for runners, so if you ever need to hear about that. We have everything here. We are a community. And we have the ability to create in our creativity. We are calling for a radical change today. We are calling for a radical change in consciousness today. Who am I as a creative being? I used to play the piano. I'm going to go play a piano today. I used to sing. I'm going to start singing to that radio. I don't care if I'm good or bad, because it's not about being good or bad at it. It's about doing it. It's about the fact that you want to lose time and play in it. Be joyful in it. That's the best part, like with the whole little children thing. You know, when you're a mom of little ones, which I don't have the little ones now, but they're just their silliness, that silliness that they live in. You have to get on the floor, and you have to deal with their giggles, and they make us like little children as mothers and fathers, and they remind us and invoke that playfulness within ourselves, but then our kids start to get a little bit older, and like right now I have 11 and 13-year-olds, and they're in that self-awareness time now. Now it's about self-awareness. So now I have to bring out that little child in them. I got to get them outside. I got to get them smelling the bark of the pine trees and find out which flavor is that one. Is it chocolate? Is it hazelnut? Is it vanilla? Evoking that they are still of the magical realm. That we all get upset at this age. But within them is a creative being as well. To remember our truth. So, when Mike and I were in Mexico, we got there late. We traveled a really long time because we got the tickets so late, so we had to transfer in Dallas, and we were there for a very long time. And when we got there, it was probably like 8 o'clock at night, and we were exhausted, and we checked our bags in, and we just decided we'd go have a glass of wine before we went to bed. And we sat down, and this couple just out of nowhere, they just joined us. They just had to be around us. They were just going to be our friends, and they were from Canada, and they were similar age to us. And they had an interesting energy, but clearly, these places are like all-inclusive, so the drinking level is like beyond belief. Like the answer to everything is more tequila to fix it. So let's just say these people had their fair share for the day. And they were fun. It was nice to just break up the day or whatever. But then through the week, we would see them by the pool and things like that. Well, one night we were at a show, and probably like the third night there. And they do these big shows at night with like acrobats and like amazing dancers and all sorts of amazing shows at this place. And they just came and just invited us to sit down with us. And there's like 500 people that watch these. The whole resort comes and watches the shows. And afterwards, they'd had, again, another full day of sun and probably a little bit too much excessive drinking. And so we were leaving, And the whole crowd had kind of gone ahead of us because we got caught in a conversation or whatever, so there really wasn't many people out at the time. And we were just walking down this stone brick way, and somehow her flip-flop just twisted underneath her foot. You know, it's something very basic. And it was like I was watching her, she was just tumbling. I mean, she's just walking. It's like she is, the speed that she just starts to lose control in her running to try to not fall. She ends up knocking into her boyfriend, and he ends up falling like smashing his face on the ground. But she also flips over him and smashes her head as well. But she's not moving, and he is. So we witnessed this, it was just the most bizarre. You would just never think that you could fall this hard. And all of a sudden, there's this much blood underneath her head. And it's like I'm peeling my scarves and sarongs off to stop this blood and screaming for people to drop towels from their hotels. And it's just beyond shock. But I'm staying calm, and I'm praying with her, and I'm trying to keep her present and not leaving because she's coming in and out. And Mike is handling everything in Spanish, which Mike does speak Spanish, but he became a scholarly Spanish speaker. It was the most unbelievable thing, and I really do believe these things do happen in a trauma state. Something opened up where he was so communicative and amazing and able to get, an ambulance there and the whole 9 yards. Anyway, her boyfriend being so hurt, he also had a head injury, and so he just looked at us and gave us his keys and said, "You have to go to my safe and get my passports and my," he just couldn't even use the words of what he needed. And he said, "I can't go there without you guys." He was just they were, and we're the only people they know. So we end up driving and meeting them at the hospital, and we're there for hours while they're not doing an MRI on her or anything like this. And she turned out she had brain cancer 3 years before. And so she already had a skull that had cracked before, so that's why the impact was so bad. So I was with her for hours and hours and hours, and the fight or flight, the whole experience was awful, and Mike was amazing at communicating for them, and once they were finally settled and they were about to go home, she was going to be fine as far as they were concerned. I needed to get away from their energy so badly. I was very unsettled. It was like a world I don't want to be involved in. I don't want to be around over drinking like that. I don't want to be around mistakes that can be made in this beautiful life, So we get out, and we're outside this hospital, and Mike and I are waiting for the cab. And I'm having flashbacks of the woman that got hit by a car in Steamboat and me holding her. I'm having a flashback of my friend saying my life is never going to be the same after she lost her child. I'm having a flash of my child and leaving the hospital room after he was gone. And I'm just in literal hell. And when I get into the cab, this beautiful music is playing. And I just find myself just sobbing from the warmth of this music. And it just proved to me that God is in all creative spaces, good and bad, regardless of the language, the culture. It was God's way to express in that moment that I was protected and held.
Somos atraídos por su amor, somos atraídos por su amor, una vez más. Y tus cuerdas de amor cayeron sobre mí. Y tus cuerdas de amor cayeron sobre mí. Tu amor que me sostiene, el que me levanta, el que me da paz, me da seguridad. Solo tu amor que me sostiene, el que me levanta, el que me da paz, me da seguridad. Y de lo que vendrá tienes el control. escucho el eco de tu voz resonando en mi interior. Tus palabras me sostendrán y me dan seguridad. Y los velos están cayendo y hoy puedo ver con claridad. Levanta tus manos ahí donde estás y di conmigo: mi fe se está encendiendo. Y hoy me vuelvo a levantar. Hoy van a caer los velos, están cayendo. Y hoy me vuelvo a levantar. Mi fe se está encendiendo. Y me vuelvo a levantar. Ponte de pie. Los velos están cayendo. Oh, puedo ver, puedo ver, puedo ver. Puedo ver con claridad. Mi fe se está encendiendo. Y hoy me vuelvo a levantar. Tu amor me sostiene. El que me da vida, el que me da paz, me hace brillar. Amor que me sostiene.
So the music was playing, and I said, "What is this music?" And Mike translated it to the cab driver, and he says, "This is music from Christ." And I said, "You have no idea how much I needed this music right now." And he gave us the name, and he said, he's an amazing, powerful Guatemalan minister that just passed away 5 days ago. And I was holding space for him in my car, and I felt like this man was singing to me.